properties that are valued 10 times over your deposit. So we'll just use $1,000 for an instance. You want to spend $1,000 on a property. If you want to spend $1,000, basically you would need to put a deposit of $100. The site will ask you what you're wanting to spend when you log in. It'll say, do you want to spend $1,000 in the sale? Or you type in your amount, and then it'll tell you what deposit you need to make. And it won't allow you to outbid your deposit. So if you're sitting at $900 worth of certificates you've selected, and there's one more out there that's $150, it's not going to let you bid on that, because if you won them all, you would surpass your $1,000 that you wanted to spend. So it's kind of set up to protect you from overspending what your intentions are. And then any bid that you put in, or any deposit you put in, that money does get applied to certificates you win. So you would just have a remaining balance, which I'll get into the due date on that. And anything that you don't win, say you put a deposit in, you don't win any certificates, we will then push that money back to you via ACH. And that usually happens around the 10th, between the 10th and 15th of June. We have to go in and balance the tax sale and do some accounting things, and then we then push those funds back to you. So that's good to know. And you can always put more deposit down. Say you just want to bid more, you can put more of a deposit down at any time if you want to. So if you're having good luck. And I'll get into the batches, and this is the bidding portion. This year we're breaking up into multiple batches, which means we're dividing our certificates up. Right now we have just over 5,000 that are available, and we're going to take half of whatever is available on June 1 and put it in that first batch. When you're on the site, it'll tell you what batch the certificate's in you're bidding on. So if you're bidding on one in batch 1, you'll need to have your bid in by that 8 a.m. time. And at 8 a.m. that batch closes, and all the certificates that are included in that would then be assigned to the bidders that won, and you'd get notification to let you know, hey, you won these certificates, and you'd get your balance due. What we're doing is a second batch, which will consist of the second half of the remaining parcels, at 10 a.m. What's good about having two batches or multiple batches is if in that first batch, say, you didn't win what you thought you'd win, or you didn't win what you wanted because maybe you looked at it and your interest rate you were bidding was a little higher than the average. Well, you'll be able to see what those interest rates were at from the first batch, and maybe go and adjust your bids up or down in the second batch. Or if you had a good, you had a good luck in the first batch, you can then place another deposit in this 2-hour time period and bid more properties in the second batch. So it gives you a little time there to kind of look at what your bids are and maybe adjust or put more funds in if you'd like, and continue to bid. And then something different we're doing this year as well is a third batch. And this is going to be of all parcels that didn't receive a bid in those first two. So we're going to basically re-offer the certificates that were up in batch 1 and batch 2. And we're giving a 4-hour window here for multiple reasons. One, these haven't received a bid, so there might not have been much research done on these, so we're giving people time to go in and actually do more research on these properties, give you more time to place deposits down and submit your bids. And this one will close at 2 p.m., so at 2 p.m. that third batch will close, and they'll select the winners out of that. Another key thing, since that second batch closes at 10 a.m., the third batch should be available at around 10:15 for you to view. It will take a few minutes for us to compile that list and get it updated to the website. So, but in between each batch, at 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., you'll have immediate results of if you've won certificates or not. So you'll know right after that sale. How the bidding works is it starts out at a maximum of 18%. And you can bid all the way down to to 0%. But keep in mind, if you bid 0%, you earn 0%. There's not a whole lot of folks that do that, but there are a few. And that minimum 5 that I talked about earlier, and I'm fixing to get into further, does not apply to these 0% bids. If you bid 0, that is absolute what you get. Now it bids down in increments of 0.25%, so it starts at 18 and you bid down. A few key things about our bidding: we do proxy bidding, which basically means, an example of that is if Ed bid 15% and I bid 10%, I'm awarded the certificate and I get it at 14.75%, so I get it right up under the next highest bid. So it bumps you up to the next highest. There's 2 cases where that doesn't apply, and that's with the 0% bids and if there's a tie on the property. If there's a tie, then whatever the amount is that it tied at is what you win it at. It won't necessarily bump you up to the next one before the tie. Your competing bids are not visible, so you can't see what other people are bidding. You can see how many bids were placed on that parcel, so you can kind of see the competition there is in that parcel. If there's a tiebreaker, or if there's multiple bids at the same interest amount, our computer will just randomly generate a winner out of that group. That's kind of where it comes into play, what I talked about earlier. People may have started getting on the site May 9th and placing bids. Well, if you get on today or tomorrow and you place the same bid as theirs, I mean, your name goes in the hat right along there, so you have just as good a chance as them placing their bid before you. We don't take into consideration who placed their bid first or anything like that, so it's just a random number generator. And like I said already, your results are available right after each bid. And you can bid and withdraw up until those batch closings, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., so on and so forth. So you can do that. If you win certificates, this is where you'll have a balance due, because you're only required to put 10% down on what you expect to buy. So if you win, you'll get a notice of your remaining balance, and you have till June 5th at 5 p.m. to submit that remaining balance. Your balance is submitted via ACH, so you would then go in and basically approve the site to push funds from your bank to ours for what your balance is. I have to let you know this. If we don't receive payment by 5 p.m. June 5th, we can withhold your deposit and cancel basically your bids. That's not typically a problem. I just have to let you know that is a possibility. We do work with folks if there's a technical issue or something like that at 5 p.m. and you can't get in. We're not going to, slam the hammer down and you be out. We'll work with you and try to get it in. We've never had a problem in the past getting these final payments in. But it's set up with those guidelines to keep people from going in there and, bidding across the board and then not paying. And then we have, just certificates out there. So it kind of alleviates any fraudulent or, inappropriate activity on the bidding site. So that's kind of the process as far as you need to register, you research, you deposit, and you bid. I'll get into some statistics here, which I'll reference on the back of your page in a minute. But before I do want to go back to that 7-year window to touch on that, and also interest calculation and how you get paid and all that. So the 7-year window, as I said earlier, after 7 years, if the certificate's still unpaid out there, or I'll use the term unredeemed, so you might see that or hear that. If that doesn't happen within 7 years, your investment is then expired and lost. After you have held the certificate 2 years, though, however, you buy it 2 years later, it's still unredeemed or not paid. You as a certificate holder can call for a tax deed sale. And that basically means you come into our office and make application, and that starts the ball rolling towards the clerk of court actually selling the property. What comes out of that sale, or the clerk of court holding that sale, is you get your money back through the proceeds of that sale plus interest. Or if no one bids at the sale, then you're awarded ownership of the property. So that's kind of where you could wind up maybe owning a piece of property if you buy a certificate, you force it to tax deed sale. If no one bids, you might wind up as the new owner of it. So you have to keep that in mind. That's not real typical. Typically, I'd say 95% of all certificates that go to tax deed sale get paid off, because like I stated earlier, any other interested party, like a mortgage company, they would lose their interest in that property, so they'll typically step up and pay. So you can do that at 2 years. You're no way required to do that at the 2-year anniversary of your certificate. You can wait. If you're earning 18% a year on it, you might not be in a big rush to just come in and file and get your money back at that point. You might wait another year while you're getting interest. You no means have to do that either. It's kind of up to kind of what your opinion is on the matter, or what you're wanting to get out of it. Another key part of the tax deed application is if you do wait a 3rd year or a 4th year, there are going to be other certificates on the property, because typically if they haven't paid for 2 years and there's at least another year after yours that has come up for tax certificate sale, and then another year. So there could be other parties that hold certificates. Well, part of the application for the tax deed sale requires you to pay off those certificate holders as part of the application process. So if you pay, that gets them out of the question. All the fees that you pay to force the sale, so whatever those tax certificate amounts are, do go into the opening bid, and you do also start earning 18% interest when the application's made. So even if you want a certificate at a low dollar amount, once you file the tax application, you earn 18% a year, so 1.5% a month, until that clerk of court actually holds the sale. On average, the sales take place probably 5 to 6 months after application's made, maybe a little quicker, but there's some things that have to take place as far as the files and stuff like that, so it does take a little while for them to actually go to sale. I've seen them go as long as a year before it's sold, but that's not real typical. So that's kind of your 7-year process and window. For the first 2 years, like I said, you'll hold that certificate. You can't take any action as a certificate holder. You can't send a letter to the property owner or make any contact. After that 2 years, you can. You can send them a letter and say, I'm going to file a tax deed for your property to go to sale. Please pay off your certificate. I would say most of the time people that buy certificates are in it just to earn interest and not for the property, so their main goal is to not have it actually go to sale and then get the property. They force that tax deed sale so they can get their money and interest back on that property. Now, as far as how your interest is calculated, we talk about 18%. All the interest is per annum or per year, so that breaks down by month at 18%. That'd be 1.5% interest you would earn each month you hold that certificate. You're awarded that interest on the first of each month. Where the minimum 5 comes into play is if you haven't earned at least 5% interest. So if let's just say you want a certificate at 12% interest a year. So you're earning 1% each month that you hold that certificate. So you'll earn your 1% on June 1, your 1% on July 1. If that property owner comes in and pays off that certificate before you've earned 5, you're still guaranteed 5. So you'll get 5% interest on your investment until you earn more than 5% is basically how it's calculated. Where you'll see a lot of people might bid 0.25%, so they win a certificate. They're guaranteed 5% interest on that. But if you break a 0.25% into 12 increments and you only have a 7-year lifespan, it's never going to surpass your 5% minimum. So most folks that win certificates at a 0.25% will force a tax deed in 2 years because they're not going to make any more money if they hold on to it for another year. They'll make 5% if it's paid off the day after the sale, or they'll make 5% if it's paid off 6 years after the sale. That 5% minimum is just a total interest. It's not 5% per year, so keep that in mind. It's 5% on your total investment. It's guaranteed. So that kind of touches on that. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me. I'll jump into some statistics, and then we'll go live on the site. And then if you have questions still about interest or anything like that, feel free to ask, because I want to make sure everybody's clear on how it's earned. Some statistics is certificate sales. This is on the back of your form there. It is the green chart at the bottom. Might be kind of hard to read in the light, but this is just a number of certificates that have actually gone to sale. Last year we had 5,551 that actually went to sale. That's out of an advertisement list of about 7,000. And we had similar this year. We had about 7,000 advertised on May 9th. And then, of course, people have come in and paid off certificates during that time period, and they're removed from the sale. So last year we took 5,551. The year before that, around 6,100. So it's been around the same. The year before that, 57. Right now, I checked this morning, we're at about 5,200 right now for this year. So we advertised about 7,000, or right under 7. So we're kind of on the same trend this year, the way it looks.